Hey, it's Chris from the PlayStation blog in Cologne, Germany at Gamescom. You should know this man by now, David Cage, writer and director, CEO of Quantic Dream. This is Heavy Rain. We just went through a demo of some of the new stuff, a new character that's on display. David, why don't you give us a quick little intro on the new character you just walked us through?
Well, here in Cologne, we are going to introduce the last two characters. We already introduced Norman Jayden, this profiler from the FBI, and Madison Page, the young photographer. Here we are going to talk about Scott Shelby. He's a private detective investigating for the families of the victims of the origami killer. He's doing a parallel investigation to the police to try to discover new clues. So he goes back to all the witnesses and try to find something new. So here we show a scene where he goes to interrogate a guy called Hassan, who owns a 7-Eleven store, and he tries to ask him some questions when a robber comes in without noticing that Scott Shelby is in the shop. So as the player, you'll be confronted with what you want to do in this situation. Just hide in the back of the store and see what happens, or maybe try to intervene in many different ways.
As usual, there's obviously a lot of different ways a user can play this scene, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can be very quiet and not say anything, or you can try to hit him, or you can try to convince him. There are many different ways, and that's what's interesting in this scene, I think.
All right. Well, a couple weeks ago, we polled our users, asked them what they would want to know about Heavy Rain. Got those questions right here. So let's get to it. Neo Guardian 86. I know you talked about this before. Wants to know what the length of the game is for each specific character.
Well, the four characters are really used like they would be in a movie, so it's not like at the beginning of the game you pick up one and play the whole story with one. You need to play with all four, so you got one scene with one and another scene with another. So it's pretty much like in a movie. So that's the way the characters are used in the game.
Right, that's probably the easiest way to explain it, right?
No, not really. Well, talking about the movie is probably the best way. You got one scene with a character, another scene with another. So you're always surprised. You never have time to get bored. The scenes are quite short, and you move from one situation to another.
Right. All right. And Shadow Dancer wants to know actually how flexible is the storyline's path and the choices that you make.
It's difficult to describe how flexible. It is not a procedural story. It's not a story that is written as you play. It's a scripted story. I want to be honest with that. But at the same time, it was the best way to guarantee the quality of the story, whatever the player does. But there is a real bandwidth for the player really to impact the story and change the way the story is told based on action. So your actions have consequences. They are always logical, and you can really change that in a very significant way, I think.
Right, and a follow-up to that is how diverse is the actual cast of characters, and is Madison the only female character?
How diverse is the massive character? There are four main characters. We got about 25 secondary characters, and about probably another 70 characters in the game. So there's a lot of characters to meet in this game, and we spent a lot of time working on the secondary character just as much as the main characters. So you are going to meet a lot of strange personalities and interesting characters, I think.
Right. And moving right along, Bravia wants to know, given that the player's choices can affect how later scenes play out, how hard was it to keep track of all the different permutations for each scene and make sure that each player's story remains consistent?
It was very hard.
Very good question also.
Yeah. No, it took a year to write the full thing, just because you don't want to tell only one good story, but you want to tell many good stories and make sure that whatever path the player chooses, he always got a consistent and reasonably good story. So that was really the challenge of the writing.
Right. But it's really coming through, as we can obviously see by this latest demo. So you guys are doing some great work.
Thank you.
And moving along, Barnold wants to know, let's see, what did you learn from Fahrenheit and how did that influence Heavy Rain?
Oh, we really learned a lot from Fahrenheit, from the things that went very well, from the things that did not work that well. The first thing we learned is that people were interested in this type of experience, which was not really obvious when we started Fahrenheit. So yeah, there's a place on the market for this type of game. We learned the importance of the story until the very end. In Fahrenheit, we were a little bit focused on the two-thirds, and the last third was not exactly right. So we spend much more time and energy on the ending, as much on the ending as on the beginning on Heavy Rain. I think we have a much better story, much more mature, no supernatural element anymore. I don't think it's needed. we entirely reworked the interface and all the action sequences in a very different way. So yeah, I think it's what worked very well on Fahrenheit worked better on Heavy Rain. What didn't work on Fahrenheit, I think now works very well also on Heavy Rain.
Definitely. A few more questions for you. Tilo, can I play multiple games at once? And what I mean is, can I start a different game and can my say my sister start another game?
Yes.
All right. Easy answer. Drew81, how much of your initial game concept were you able to make a reality with Heavy Rain?
Probably 99%, I would say, but just because it's so much work to write it, it's so much work to produce it, you cannot really change your mind in the middle of production and say, oh, I want to change this and I don't want to do that, just because there are 200 people working on this and you cannot really easily change your mind.